Hi there, and welcome to another Never Doubt Nature video. Today we are doing the dingo, the Australian dingo. And today I'm actually doing a voiceover because my audio didn't work. Lots of technical difficulties. So here is the sticker I'm using, all dingoes all over. And I think I'm going to cut it in half because then I can do one page for each side of the spread. This is going to be in two parts, this dingo series, I guess you could call it. So I'm going to cut this up soon and then we'll work out how to decorate these pages. So let's start it off with a couple of unique facts. All domestic dogs come from the grey wolf, or Canis lupus. The dingo most likely comes from early breeds of domesticated dogs, from seafarers of Southeast Asia. But the dingo's nomenclature or scientific naming is under much debate. Just like all other dogs, dingoes are placental animals, meaning they grow with the presence of the placenta in the womb, which allows for nutrient and waste exchange between the mother and fetus. Young are then born well developed compared to monotreme and marsupial mammals. Dingoes, just like the thylacine, have always been framed as going after livestock. Yes, they may attack and kill livestock, but usually not to the extent that some farmers believe. Now, I just want to take a second here because I am doing these three sections, and today I'm going to work on the desert and ocean side, which is where I've got it now. I'll cut the sticker in half that way, and then we will stick it down and just start doing this side of the spread for today. So here I've got desert, coastal, and up the top there I've got alpine. And they are the three types of dingoes that exist in Australia and the regions and climates they're found in. So dingoes may attack and kill livestock, but usually not to the extent that some farmers believe. Still, this is why the dingo fence was built across mainland Australia. Originally built to keep rabbits out, but repurposed to keep wild dogs and dingoes from prime agricultural land. So I'm just going to put these stickers up, the sticker up here in the middle, and that's how I'm thinking I'm going to display it for today. Just to avoid that crease in the page, but still use the same sticker for the whole video. So that's what I'm thinking there. And I'll do that side in part 2 and this side today with the desert and coastal part. Okay, now I'll quickly grab some things to decorate this spread with. So just bear with me here. So here I've got some sort of desert themed colours, and I think I'm just going to start plonking, stick and plonk away. If I can get the sticker off the page. And we're just going to go for it. So while I'm doing that, I will jump into breaking down the scientific name and other names for dingoes. So dingoes are also known as just wild dogs. The name dingo is actually an indigenous word from the Darung language in Australia. They are also called Wangari by the indigenous of Fraser Island. So let's break down the scientific name. We've got Canis familiaris dingo or Canis lupus dingo, depending on who you ask. So Canis is Latin for dog, and familiaris refers to its domesticated nature. It means of a family, so in this case it means of the dog family. So Canis familiaris is the scientific name for the domestic dog, and we just add dingo on the end for the dingo. Lupus just means wolf in this context. Canis lupus is the scientific name for the grey wolf, of which both the dingo and domestic dog are descendants of. So it is not wrong to call dingoes and dogs either of these scientific names. The dingo has been of much debate over the years as to whether or not it is another breed of domestic dog or its own species. Descendants of the grey wolf. The term dingo is also used for wild dogs of Malaysia, Thailand, Philippines, and New Guinea. The Australian dingo, however, although it may be genetically distinct from these other Asian wild dogs, still cannot be functionally differentiated from living wild dogs and hybrids for many other reasons, and it does not meet the criteria to have its own taxonomic name at the date of this research. Basically, the dingo is not different enough from other similar wild dogs, especially when you take into context the interbreeding which can happen between wild and domestic dogs and dingoes. There are, however, various organisations such as the Dingo Discovery Sanctuary and Research Centre, which have bred pure bloodlines of dingoes with an aim to preserve and conserve the gene pool of Australian dingoes. Island populations of dingoes are also another variable to consider. Because they are separate from mainland populations, they are likely to be more of a pure breed. Take the Fraser Island dingo for instance. They may have swum from the mainland to the island of K'gari or brought there with indigenous communities. Either way, this made for a distinct population from the mainland on an isolated island, well before Europeans and other dogs appeared in Australia. There are many papers arguing the need to taxonomically define a dingo as a necessity to protect it. A formal definition can help to legislate dingoes under Protected Species Acts and other legislation. They are not currently listed on the IUCN Red List for this exact reason, meaning they are not considered a distinct species from domestic dogs. The IUCN Red List is the world-leading scientific list of threatened species which assess the conservation status and extinction risk of those species and is used to inform conservation actions worldwide. This debate about the dingo scientific name is an ongoing academic debate of which I have very limited knowledge on, but it is quite interesting nonetheless. And as usual, all references to these papers are linked below. Okay, so we're just trying to find some more stickers and bits and pieces to put down so it looks a little bit more coherent. Otherwise, it's just going to be a massive collage, which is also fine, but kind of not what I was going for today. But if that's what happens, that's alright too. I do like a collage sometimes, but I just want to try to have these three distinct areas of the desert dingoes, the alpine dingoes, and coastal dingoes. So I've just decided to decorate the background all over. I'm not just sticking to desert and coastal, obviously, because I'm allowed to change my mind. So that's my excuse to myself. Going in with some more deserty colours, red and orange. Speaking of the regions where dingoes are found, let's jump into some of the appearance of dingoes. So dingoes have erect ears, a broad head and strong body. They have a long tapered muzzle and their teeth are longer than the average domestic dog. Dingoes have long, slender legs with 5 toes on the forefeet and 4 toes on the hind feet. Claws are straight and non-contractable. Dingo fur is quite short, but they have a bushy tail with a scent gland at the base. And as I've mentioned, there are 3 different types of dingoes. We've got our alpine, which I'm doing in the top left corner. Now I'm just thinking I'm going to stick this sticker down, and we're looking at these dingoes. So these ones along the bottom are going to be your tropical and northern or tropical or northern dingoes, and that top left one, that white one, can be the alpine dingoes, and those more normal colored dingoes, or what you normally think of a dingo, that reddish light brown golden color, is more of the desert species of dingo. So desert and alpine dingoes have a double coat to withstand cold nights and hot days, whereas the tropical dingoes have a single coat and are more adapted to the constant heat and humidity. And that's where I'm doing the desert dingoes up there on the right and tropical dingoes down the bottom. Tropical dingoes are also smaller in size, so they retain less heat. So the most common is the light reddish brown or sandy with white feet, nose, fur, stomach, and parts of tail. And the second most common is black with sandy markings around feet, nose, fur, stomach, and under the tail. And they are mostly found in the desert, but they can be found everywhere. It's just climate-wise, there are a few, like the whiter dingoes are found in the alpine regions. And yeah, their coat color can be influenced by their habitat and climate. Dingoes are found Australia-wide, but in the hotter desert areas, dingoes are lighter, this more golden yellow. And in more forested, cooler areas, the fur is usually darker tan to black. So that's where I've separated that sticker so it represents them better on those sides there. Some of the alpine dingoes have a white or cream coat, probably for better camouflage. So I think we'll jump into the conservation status in a minute. And this is also involving those three areas, the alpine areas, tropical and desert dingoes. I just want to put down a few scene kind of stickers. I've just got out some here. So I've got that coastal theme on the left there and more of the deserty theme on the right hand page. I'm just trying to find a few extra ones because I'm sure I had some here somewhere. But let's jump into the conservation status. So, dingoes are not as common as they once were. After European colonization and the boom of farming and pastoralization occurred, they would begin to hunt livestock, rabbits, and other introduced species. Obviously, European farmers did not like it, and so the dingo began being hunted. Europeans altered the Australian landscape in many ways. They altered fire regimes and developed large areas for grazing sheep and cattle. The climate and vegetation of Australia was therefore significantly altered. Europeans also introduced other wild dogs, foxes, and feral cats, all competing with the dingo for their main prey source, which was dasyurids. So dingoes were forced to hunt larger, more mobile prey. So I'll get to dasyurids in a minute, but basically they are marsupial mice kind of creatures. They are not mice. Mice are rodents, but they are a bunch of marsupials, of really tiny, mouse-sized marsupials. And they are things like dunarts and antichinuses, and they're only found in Australia. But this was a common food source for the dingoes, and when these feral predators like cats and foxes came in, they started feeding on the dasyurids. So dingoes moved to the bigger prey, as I just said, such as kangaroos and wallabies, and bigger birds and lizards, that sort of thing. Dasyurids are really interesting animals, and I will be doing a few videos coming up soon on them. They're not the only marsupial mice-like creatures. There are a number of possums and things like quolls and even numbats and that. They're sort of that similar marsupial, but they're all very unique in their own ways too. So stay tuned for another video on dasyurids and maybe some other marsupials. Today we are talking about the dingo though. So I'm just putting down some border stickers to help define the spread a little bit more. So just bear with me while I do that. So I'm just putting this one down to represent this pest species that have come into Australia as I'm talking you through my script here. As you can see, there is a little lamb on this little strip here, and that has pretty big meaning. So I've got all these, the fence here because of the mention of the dingo fence before, and the sheep and the lamb. I don't have a lot of reasons to use sheep or lamb stickers, so throwing them in this spread. As I know lambs and sheep and livestock in general isn't the main food source for dingoes, and isn't now and probably never was, but we're not going to argue with farmers on that because they probably don't hunt sheep now, but they're still framed in this way that they are the enemy of sheep, such as landscapes like this that I'm putting down. If a dingo was ever caught in these landscapes, it wouldn't last long. And this is more of the lush landscapes down on the other side of the dingo fence where dingoes aren't allowed. I will talk more about the dingo fence in part 2 of Dingo, so stay tuned for that. But for now, let me jump into some of the other details and basics of the dingo, and then maybe the lambs and the fences and the landscapes I've put here will start to make a bit more sense. So dingoes are found Australia-wide as long as they have access to fresh water. They are not found in Tasmania, but vary across the mainland. As mentioned, again, there are 3 different types of dingoes: the alpine, tropical, and desert. They all vary slightly in size, colourings, coat thickness, and preferred prey and preferred climate, etc. So I'm just going to put this main sticker down before we get carried away with the decorating. And I just want to make it stand out a bit. So all it says in the middle is all dingoes all over. I don't really want to focus on that too much because I don't really know what it means, but I really want to focus on the colours of the dingoes and where they're found. And basically, here they're the centre of attention for a lot of controversial reasons. So I'm just going to do a black outline around that because it'll help it stand out a bit. Very messy black line. So bear with me, it's certainly not going to be perfect. If you can't stand that sort of thing, then you're on the wrong channel because nothing I ever really do is perfect. So just doing an outline here, make it stand out a bit. And there's a little bit of a mistake there, but we can cover that up, no problem. With a love heart. So let's talk about the dingo diet. Dingoes are first and foremost carnivores, so they will eat almost any game. From mammals, reptiles, birds, and insects. Originally, before European colonization, the dingo's main diet was made up of native dasyurids such as dunnuts, echinocases, kawari, and marsupial mice. However, with the introduction of foxes, cats, and other dogs, dingoes were forced to go after larger prey. Dingoes have since evolved to prefer larger prey such as wallabies, kangaroos, wombats, lizards such as goannas or monitors, and birds, including emus, but they will also hunt non-native animals such as rabbits, rodents, wild pigs, and even water buffalo. Dingoes can also fish. So I'm just putting down some more border outline kind of things to sort of bring it all together a bit more. It's pretty patchy and all over the place at the moment, but that's how these things happen sometimes. Yeah, so I thought it'd be pretty good putting this sticker down as a wolf, as an ancestor, so we can have like a little remember the past of the dingo kind of area up there. And I've got that lamb just there, and we're going to put in some more pest species like the rabbit, and we'll just introduce species. We've got the rabbits, the sheep, and we've got that wolf representing the dingo's past. It's like these are all the ghosts of the dingo's tortured, controversial past and present, really. I'll be going into these controversies in part 2, which is coming up. So there's a lot to go into for part 2, and I think it'd be pretty interesting. So, speaking of the dingo diet, behaviorally, they live and hunt larger prey in packs, but they may also hunt alone. So, things like the kangaroos, dingoes, even wombats, lizards like goannas and monitors, did I say emus? And even the wild pigs and water buffalo, they will hunt in packs. So a group of dingoes will hunt down those larger, more agile animals, or just heavier set animals, because boars and buffalo can be pretty full on. I'm not sure how a group of dingoes tackles them down, but they do. Um, but then I'm sure most of the time, solo dingoes will just go after the smaller kangaroos and the wallabies and birds and insects, smaller mammals, um, alone. Dingoes raise their young pups in either a den, cave, or rock pile, hollow log, rabbit warren, or wombat burrow. So they recycle, reuse. They will work with what they've got. They are opportunistic, and I know in part two I will be using that word a lot to describe dingoes. Opportunistic and scavengers. So, with where they raise their young pups, they will just use whatever's lying around. Den, cave, or rock pile is probably their first go to, but if nothing like that is around, hollow log, rabbit warren, or wombat burrow are the next best things. Dingoes are most active at dawn and dusk, making them crepuscular. And dingoes howl rather than bark. And that's everything I've got today for the dingoes. That's on their behaviour. But as I said, stay tuned for part two because I'll be going into a bunch of controversies of the dingo, and there are a lot of controversies. I won't be able to cover all of them in part two, but I'm going to try. So back to the spread. I've just put down a few stickers on the coastal side. Just trying to round that all up a bit. I've got the stickers in front of me, so I may as well stick and plonk while I'm here instead of waiting for the next video. And in the next video, I'll do that alpine top left corner. So I'm just putting down a couple of, or 3 strips of background scene looking kind of stickers. I just put that sandy looking one down to represent the desert, and this one up here will represent alpine, and then I've got this one down here for coastal. Just working out where to put it. So I think it's looking pretty good. just going to do the finishing touches to end this video and then jump into part 2. So that's the coastal stones that I've just put down there. And I haven't stuck that one down yet. So I think that's going to be pretty much it for part 1 of Australian dingoes. Thank you again for being here today and watching this, and staying tuned as I have technical difficulties. I know I haven't put many videos out in a while, but I'm hoping to just be able to go bang, bang, bang now. So yeah, this is the semi-finished spread for today. Part 1, stay tuned for part 2, which again is a bunch of controversies of the dingo, and I'll also put a label on the page to name it and put the scientific name. So we've got the desert up in that right corner and coastal down the bottom. The colours of dingoes representing where they're from, where they're found. And yeah, that's the end of the video. So again, thank you so much for watching Never Doubt Nature. And stay tuned for part 2 on the dingoes. Bye.